Bigfoot is one of North America's modern mysteries. Does he actually exist, or is he just a legend? Well, there's actually a more important question that we should be asking first. Is it even scientifically possible for a creature like this to exist? Today, we're talking about if Bigfoot's existence makes sense from a scientific perspective. And if he could exist, what would he actually look like and act like? We're going to break this down into three sections: Bigfoot's physiology, how they interact with the environment, and how they interact with other animals. Timestamps are in the description, so feel free to skip around. And just to help keep things clear, I'm focusing on just the North America version of Bigfoot. There are a few different versions of Bigfoot type cryptids from all over the world, but today we're just talking about the North American Sasquatch. Most sightings have described Bigfoot as around 6 to 9 feet tall, but some have put him as large as 15 feet. Now, I don't think that a 15-foot tall creature could live in such an environment, but the 6 to 9 foot range is actually pretty believable. There are many much moose and bears in the area that can get pretty big. The average adult moose is usually around 6 to 7 feet tall and between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds, so a bipedal animal could reasonably be up to 9 feet tall. But more realistically, the fear of having seen something spooky in the forest probably had an effect on people's perception, and they aren't quite as big or scary as some reports say. So it would probably be a little smaller. A smaller size would also help them navigate more quickly through thick forests. The broad shoulders, no neck, and long arms are also probably possible. Many hominids have these kinds of features. Maybe not as pronounced as Bigfoot, but evolution could certainly have had an effect over the generations. The one physical trait that I don't think is believable, though, is eye shine. Many people who have had nighttime encounters have described eye shine like that of a cat. There are plenty of animals that do have eye shine, but not any great apes. This technically could be something that evolved independently in Bigfoots, but most descriptions and hypothetical reconstructions of Bigfoot describe them as diurnal and omnivores, like other hominids. So it would be unlikely that this trait would pop up, and if it did, it probably wouldn't be beneficial enough to spread to the entire population. The last physical trait that I think is worth talking about is the stink. Many people describe Bigfoot as having a pretty atrocious smell. In one article, link below, it's described as smelling like it rolled around in dead animals and hung out in a garbage pit. If you've ever been to an anime convention, you know the smell. This is one that I'm not sure if I believe or not. On the one hand, if the animal had bad hygiene, then sure, it's possible it could be stinky. But most animals clean themselves at least a little, so I'm not sure if it would ever get that bad. Most animals known for their stink use it as kind of a defense mechanism, like a skunk. But a creature this large and powerful wouldn't really need a defense mechanism like that, and from reports of Bigfoot sightings, it sounds like he's just kind of passively stinky. I don't know. Maybe Bigfoots are just too hairy and haven't invented shampoo yet. Before we move on to the next section, make sure you like and subscribe if you like this video. Animals have a huge effect on their environment, and Bigfoot's no different, if he exists. It's theorized that Bigfoot, like other hominids, make nests. Depending on the species and the size of the specific individual, sometimes their nests are on the ground or sometimes it's in trees. In the case of Bigfoot, they would probably most likely be on the ground. Bigfoot is said to have human-like feet, so climbing trees would be much more difficult for a Bigfoot than it would be for something like a chimpanzee. I did see one Bigfoot hunter style show where they found what they thought was a Bigfoot nest, but honestly it mostly just looked like a tree fell down. It didn't look anything like a gorilla nest, and gorillas are the next biggest hominid, so theoretically their nests should look similar. Now, in this video, I mostly want to stick to talking about the scientific possibility of Bigfoot and not get too much into the evidence side of things, but I just haven't really seen any compelling pictures of Bigfoot nests. Most of the photos I was able to find either look like nothing or it looks like it was very deliberately set up as a hoax. So, yeah, scientifically possible, but we don't really have any good evidence. But some people think that Bigfoot doesn't make nests, but they live in caves. And honestly, this theory kind of makes a little more sense to me. See, if Bigfoot's real, then intelligence wise, he's probably on par with humanity's ancestors, but certainly not quite as smart as humans. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans and human ancestors lived in caves, so I think it would make sense for a moderately intelligent great ape to also try to find shelter in caves. There have also been some people claiming to have found Bigfoot nests in caves, but again, these nests didn't really look that convincing. I think if there are Sasquatch out there, they would probably be using the caves, many of which are unexplored or even undiscovered. It's probably impossible to get an accurate estimation on how many undiscovered caves there are, but it's probably at least in the order of tens of thousands just in the US. So if there is some kind of undiscovered great ape out there, they're probably living in caves. The last main way that an animal interacts with this environment is what they eat. Good old Sassy is assumed to be an omnivore, and that's probably a safe assumption. Every other great ape is an omnivore. It's believed that Bigfoot eats nuts, berries, roots, fish, or even meat. Now, there is some debate on if that meat is hunted or scavenged, but what makes the most sense to me is that it's actually a little bit of both. They would probably have a similar diet to bears, and bears are known to hunt and scavenge. Bigfoot would probably be an opportunistic hunter, like bears. This just means that they don't go out of their way for fresh meat, but if the opportunity for fresh meat presents itself, they will certainly take it. Some people have said that Bigfoot would be a persistence hunter, but with how big it supposedly is, it probably would have trouble quickly chasing prey through the forest and keeping up with them. But maybe it could take on an elk or moose that wouldn't be able to dodge and weave through the trees as effectively. As far as how Bigfoots interact with the environment, it would definitely be pretty similar to bears. So I think we have pretty strong scientific proof that a creature like this could exist, because one kind of already does. So, how would Bigfoot interact with other species? Well, other than the occasional hunting, not much. It's theorized that they're very secluded creatures, and mostly just want to keep to themselves. That's why we almost never see them. Or maybe we've never seen them. Some of those videos look pretty fake. Anyway, I think the more interesting thing here is how they interact with each other. Some people have claimed to see families of Bigfoots. Some have also seen a solo Bigfoot. So it seems like they're generally pretty secluded creatures, but do occasionally live in family units. We haven't really been able to see one up close or for a prolonged period of time, if they exist at all. So we don't really know that much about their behaviors. And different hominids have different ways of grouping, so we don't really have a solid, consistent theory for that. Based on reports, I would imagine that they live similarly to orangutans, who are solitary for most of their adult life, then get together for a few days or weeks to mate. The female would then raise the child on her own until it's old enough to be independent. Many animals communicate with howls or vocalizations, and it's theorized that Bigfoot would communicate in a similar way. Pretty much every large animal does use some kind of vocalization or howls, so it would make sense for this theoretical animal to do so as well. But the thing that I think is more interesting to talk about here is tree knocks. Ancient astronaut theorists, wait, wrong thing. Bigfoot theorists think that they communicate with each other by smacking sticks or rocks on trees. They'll find a nice big stick or rock and hit it several times against a tree trunk, and depending on the sound or the rhythm or something, the other Bigfoots would get the message. But I couldn't really find any strong scientific precedent for this kind of behavior. There are some animals that communicate in a somewhat similar way. Woodpeckers and other birds can communicate with their pecks, and there are even some beetles that communicate in a similar way, but I couldn't find any examples of this behavior in mammals. The lack of example in mammals kind of kills the theory for me. I mean, technically, yes, it is scientifically possible that maybe they came up with this behavior on their own, but it seems unlikely. And again, we don't have any scientific precedence for this kind of behavior in mammals. Besides, they have other means of communicating, like howls or other vocalizations that people have apparently heard, so why would they have need for wood knocks? If they are doing this, we would see physical marks on the trees. While doing research for this, I saw a few videos of people doing tree knocks in an attempt to get a response, and in most cases, the bark of the tree was significantly damaged. Probably not enough to actually hurt the tree, but enough that there was a noticeable, visible mark on the tree trunk. And this made me think of another potential purpose for these tree knocks. Maybe they aren't an attempt to communicate, but a way to visually mark territory. The main problem with this theory, though, is again, we don't really see those marks on trees, and it seems like we should. And we also don't see other animals doing it. And if it was a territory marking thing, they would probably use something like claws so that way there was a stronger visual indicator of how big and scary the one who left the markings is. All this to say, any explanation of tree knocks I could find or think of doesn't really hold up. So, is Bigfoot scientifically possible? And if so, what does this scientifically viable version look like? Well, yes, I think it is possible for a creature like this to exist, but we would have to change a few things that people have reported about him. They would be big, scary, human like creatures, but maybe a little bit smaller than is commonly reported, probably more like 5 to 7 feet. They wouldn't be as stinky, or maybe they would be. I think that one can kind of go either way. As far as behavior, they would live in caves and forage for food, occasionally getting some fresh meat or scavenging some if it's available. They would live alone with the exception of mating, and they would communicate long distances with howls and over short distances with grunts or vocalizations. I think if Bigfoot does exist, this is the version that would exist. Now, do I think Bigfoot actually exists? Well, yes and no. It seems unlikely. I mean, why don't we have any hard conclusive evidence yet? But I do think it's possible. There's still plenty of things that we haven't found yet, and hidden caves that we know nothing about. The forests of North America are a lot less explored than we like to think they are. They could just be out there hiding. Or it could just be a mangy bear. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you guys next time, and remember to stay curious.